What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking the 5 players that we believe will be skyrocketing up draft boards come your draft day. So make sure to tune in. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue chatting with us there. Let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? Who else do you think belongs in this category of skyrocketing ADP and why? If you've got any other questions, let us hear them. We'll do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, let's get right into it. As you can see, we've got our 2024 fantasy football draft rankings pulled up here via fantasypros as of mid-late July for a PPR format basis. But as I mentioned in the intro, we are talking names that we believe will be seeing their ADPs, their average draft position, rise come August, come September, because they're undervalued right now. Therefore, again, they will be skyrocketing up draft boards. So as of right now, they present some pretty good value. And because of the basis of this breakdown, we're obviously not going to be focusing on guys that are going like in the first round and the second round. That's kind of a given. So let's kick it off. We're going to scroll down here a little bit with the first name that I personally want to highlight. And we're going to go all the way down to number 44. The New York Giants rookie Malik Nabers comes in as wide receiver 25. And I've mentioned Malik Nabers a lot before. And the aspect that I've mentioned him is when talking Marvin Harrison Jr. of the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason, I always bring up Malik Nabers and why I want to highlight him here is because I've been saying since day one, since both these rookies got drafted, that Malik Nabers would 1,000%, 10 times out of 10, be the better value pick. And, a couple of months ago, while the gap between Marvin Harrison and Malik Nabers was a little bit more significant, now you start to see Malik Nabers go in the 4th round, something like that. Before, he was going like in the 5th, late 5th, maybe early 6th, something like that. But basically, what has happened is that people are realizing that what we've been saying since day one, which is basically, both these guys, they were neck and neck during the NFL draft. Some people preferred Marvin Harrison. Some people preferred Malik Nabers, depending on the type of wide receiver that you wanted. Now, sure, probably majority were giving Marvin Harrison Jr. the nod, and he's great. But Malik Nabers, also the 1B to the 1A prospect of Harrison, and he's going, in terms of environments, in terms of opportunities, to a very similar type of situation. Now, yes, the big difference is one guy has Kyler Murray throwing him the football, and the other guy has Daniel Jones throwing him the football. But when you look at draft capital, very similar draft capital. Again, when you look at pedigree from college and expectations heading into the pros year one and capabilities, these guys, again, neck and neck. On top of that, volume, opportunities, the offenses that they play in, both with Marvin Harrison and Malik Nabers, they are going to be on offenses that are probably going to be, bottom 5, bottom 10 in the league. What does that mean? That means that they're going to be throwing the football a lot. It's going to be game script dependent. They're only going to run the football until they're still in the game, right? And then they're going to have to start tossing the rock around. Now, you look at the offense that the Arizona Cardinals have. They also have Trey McBride there for what it's worth, right? So I don't think he's just going to be the distant number 2 behind Marvin Harrison. That offense was kind of running through McBride at certain points last year. They've also got James Conner as a decent pass catcher. While I do think Marvin Harrison is at the top of the pecking order, with Malik Nabers, you look at the other Giant wide receivers, I'm not really all that scared of them. Saquon Barkley is no longer there. There's not really a tight end in the mix. No more Darren Waller that is going to take away too many targets. Malik Nabers is going to be the primary usage guy. And he's going to be used all over the place, whether it's, short routes, intermediate routes, deep routes. So I think he's going to see some very, very similar type of opportunities. Again, in terms of efficiency, in terms of catchable balls, things like that, sure, Marvin Harrison might have the edge. But to me, it's not an edge that's worth, Marvin Harrison is ranked as an end of the first round, early second round selection. Malik Nabers here right now, currently 44th overall, depending on the size of the league. Start of the fourth round, something like that. Middle of the fourth round. I think that gap should be a lot smaller. And just kind of looking at the trends the last month and a half, it's been trending that way. People realize that these are the alpha rookie wide receivers in this class. Like afterwards, sure, you've got Rome Odunze, who was one of these tier 1 rookies, but he's in a situation where he's the number 3 target on his team, rookie quarterback. So it's a much different situation. Like when we're talking rookie wide receivers, these are the top 2 guys. There's a reason they're being drafted the highest. But I continue to make the case and point that Malik Nabers should be a lot closer to the ADP of Marvin Harrison. Now, I think probably the way to think about it is Marvin Harrison's ADP should be lower, somewhere around third round, early third round, and Malik Nabers shouldn't be too far behind. But again, depending on your league's love for rookies, things of that nature, I would not be shocked to see Malik Nabers continue to go up those rankings and, potentially sometimes even end up as a third round selection, something of that nature. Next up, let's talk about Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints, running back. I specifically want to highlight him here for full PPR purposes. I look at the Saints offense. I look at what Alvin Kamara did last year. Now, obviously, he was suspended for a portion of the season, but on a per-game basis, Alvin Kamara was fairly efficient. And in my opinion, the biggest thing with him is just having those touchdowns vultured from Taysom Hill, right? You have that touchdown success get back to Alvin Kamara. He can still do it all. He's still one of the top pass catchers on this offense. He's still the number 1 running back on this offense. I'm not buying into the young guys that could potentially usurp him. Like those guys were there for a portion of the season last year, backups in general. Alvin Kamara was by far and away the best running back on the team. I think he's the most versatile running back on the team as well. The most explosiveness, the most big playability. It's just going to be a matter of, with Alvin Kamara, how much the Saints utilize him in that pass catching role that he excels in. Because, talent alone, the guy is a top 5 pass catching running back in the NFL. You get him the ball in the open field, he can make defenders miss and make something out of nothing. In full PPR formats, I think right now you see him ranked 45th overall. Outside of the top 10, outside of the top 12 running backs, comes in as running back 14. To me, that's on the lower side. I think, he still has, low-end RB1 type of upside. And now, again, take this with a grain of salt. The rankings are going to be slightly different from platform to platform, ESPN, Yahoo, Fantasy Pros, NFL. So keep all of that in mind. But I bring this up to say that I still believe Alvin Kamara, he's not he shouldn't be written off. I know he's kind of at this point a veteran. He's had his fantasy success in years past, but skill-wise, I think he's not that far removed from a Christian McCaffrey. It's just about the utilization. Michael Thomas is no longer there for the New Orleans Saints. There's going to be opportunities. I think you could argue that Alvin Kamara is the second best pass catcher on this team after a Chris Olave. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he's utilized. Right now, getting him somewhere in the 4th round, I think that is a tremendous steal. And people, whether it's because of name recognition, whether it's because, running back runs at certain points in the draft, to me, Alvin Kamara is going to see his ADP rise probably to a early 3rd round selection, maybe even slightly earlier, depending on how league mates feel about some of the other running backs this season. But let's continue to move on. I've got another name here that I want to highlight. That is one George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Comes in 57th overall, wide receiver 31. And again, similar to A Malik Nabers, a couple of months ago, his ADP was maybe like a round and a half, well, half a round lower, excuse me. But he has been steadily going up and up and up. And it kind of makes sense. He's a divisive type of player. You look at the opportunities here, and I feel like a lot of people believe he's either going to be a boom or bust guy. I think he's on the boom side of things. I look at the quarterback upgrade from Pickett to whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Either one is a huge upgrade. Russell Wilson, if he has the inside track, great. He's not Russell Wilson of old, but we've seen him outside of Seattle still prop up some other wide receivers. And I think Pickens is going to be the best wide receiver he's played with since leaving Seattle. On top of that, if it's Justin Fields, we saw him turn DJ Moore into a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. Pickens is another one of these young guys. He's shown it before in the past, the flashes. There's no more Deontay Johnson, so that means a lot of opportunities as well. And then finally, not a lot of competition. You look at the other wide receivers on the Pittsburgh roster, like it's by far and away Pickens is going to be the most reliable target. So again, I think people are going to start coming around to that. I think the only thing that's kind of holding them back at this point in time is the fact that it's okay. It's the Steelers offense. It's kind of been shaky the last few years. Russell Wilson is past his prime. Justin Fields, was traded to the Steelers after nobody wanted him. But you're going to start getting into this range of players, and you're going to start realizing that George Pickens' upside is pretty damn high. Like, you compare him to some of these other names in this category, like compared to a T. Higgins, he's the number one wide receiver on his team. Compared to a Keenan Allen, he's younger. He's the number one wide receiver on his team. Compare him to a Stephon Diggs. Similar type of situations. Now, I don't think he's going to leapfrog Stephon Diggs, but right now coming in at 57th overall, again, probably end of the 5th round, somewhere around there, but would not be shocked at all for him to be an early 5th round selection, maybe sometimes even end of the 4th round. But let's continue here with our list. And a name that I want to highlight is one Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills. Comes in as the tight end number 5, 67th overall in terms of rankings. And I think with Dalton Kincaid, a lot of people are kind of already in on him. But once you get outside of the top 3, the top 4 tight ends, and there's usually a lull, right, in terms of when that next tight end is drafted. But I look at him, I look at a McBride, and I think they're in a similar type of category. Like, they're both younger tight ends that broke out at certain points last year when given the opportunity. And I think that they can be, tight end ones this season, both contend for a top 3 tight end finish. Like, you look at the guys that are being drafted ahead of him, Travis Kelce, I mean, he's not getting any younger. Same with Mark Andrews, injuries, a run-first type of quarterback. So there's a lot of aspects to it here, right? So for that reason, and then you combine that with the fact that I think people are going to start coming around to the fact of the Buffalo Bills offensively. I think they took a step back in terms of weapons, right? They lost Stephon Diggs. They lost Gabe Davis. Sure, Josh Allen is still there. They added Curtis Samuel. They drafted Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman's a rookie, right? So how much can we really expect from him? Curtis Samuel, I do think, is being overlooked, but he's a late round type of addition. He's kind of that journeyman, that veteran guy. You look around this roster, and all of a sudden, I think you can make the argument that Dalton Kincaid is your most kind of reliable, high upside type of pass catcher. And I think when you look at those type of opportunities, you pair him with Josh Allen, the quarterback upside that he has, and you are going to start to see people reaching for a Dalton Kincaid, especially in situations where you want to get the tight end advantage. So right now, this is translating to a 6th round, mid-6th round selection. I think it's going to be much earlier, and I think it's, especially if there's a tight end run, Dalton Kincaid can go a round or 2 earlier than where you see him ranked right now. And then finally, let's highlight the last name on our list here, Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons, another tight end, 87th overall, tight end number 7. And the reason why he's ranked so low, I would say, is because of a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the last few years, he's absolutely burned you. So there is some recency bias no matter what you say there. But then on top of that, I think just the way the tight ends are ranked ahead of him, they've just been more consistent, right? Like Evan Ingram, McBride, Dalton Kincaid. So basically we've seen more recently success from them. Whereas with Kyle Pitts, it's kind of been 2 years. Like last year, he was droppable. And for that reason, not a lot of people want to go on that roller coaster ride again. But you look on the flip side, like you look at where Bijan Robinson, where Drake London are being drafted, and you compare it to where they finished last year, right? Because Bijan was still being drafted as a first rounder last year. He wasn't a top 5 running back. You know, he was a disappointment based on his finish. Drake London, same type of situation, but Bijan is potentially a top 5 pick. Drake London is a second round selection. The reason for that is because one, Kirk Cousins has been added to that team, and Kirk Cousins does wonders for his offensive playmakers. So I think this is just a scenario where the ADP rise hasn't necessarily caught up to Kyle Pitts as much as it has caught up to Bijan and to Drake London. And I've said it before, you know, even if Cousins starts out the year missing a week or two, whatever the case might be, they've got the backup plan in Penix. He's still better than what they had last year with Ritter. So I think Pitts, again, you can make the argument, he's the number 2, 3 pass-catching weapon on this offense. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. Anytime your tight end is in that type of situation, huge upside. And if you're getting him, you know, 87th overall, like 8th round type of territory, he should be going much earlier. I think as far as the tight ends that are concerned that are here close to him, like George Kittle, David Njoku, Ferguson, he by far and away has the most upside compared to all of them. So Kyle Pitts definitely has to be mentioned in this breakdown. But with that, we wrap it up as we conclude our breakdown of the 5 names that we believe will be skyrocketing up draft boards come your draft day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comments section, agree, disagree, what other names would you put on this list and why? Along with any other questions you guys might have, we'll do our best to answer them all. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.